Wife? What other wife? My voice cracked as I gripped my phone tighter, staring at the bank manager's number on the screen. I'd just tried to transfer our monthly savings to the joint account when the bank called about an unusual transaction. Now this stranger was casually mentioning my husband's wife, Jessica, from Colorado Springs, a woman who wasn't me. I'm sorry, Mrs. Wilson, I thought you knew. The accounts registered to Thomas Wilson and Jessica Wilson. Is there a problem? The manager's voice turned cautious. My hand trembled as I looked across our Denver kitchen at the breakfast dishes Thomas had left before his 3-day business trip, at the calendar where I'd marked my doctor's appointment for tomorrow. The one where I planned to confirm what 3 positive pregnancy tests had already told me. There's been a mistake, I said, my voice hollow. I'll call back. I hung up and pulled out Thomas's laptop. After 10 years of marriage, I knew his password. Our anniversary. With shaking hands, I opened his email. It took 17 minutes to find everything. The second phone bill. The mortgage statements for a house in Colorado Springs. Jessica's emails about our home and our life. Photos of Thomas with a petite blonde woman I'd never seen, standing in front of a colonial-style house with blue shutters. Weekend trips when he was supposedly at conferences. Birthday parties I never knew about. I was pulling up credit card statements when the doorbell rang. Rebecca? It's Carol. Can I come in? My mother-in-law's voice carried through the door. I wiped my eyes and opened it. Carol Wilson stood there, perfect as always in her tailored pantsuit, pearls gleaming at her neck. I was in the neighborhood and thought she stopped, seeing my face. What's wrong, dear? I held up Thomas's laptop. Do you know Jessica? Her face drained of color. You know, I said, not a question. You've always known. It was just supposed to be temporary, Carol said an hour later, clutching her teacup. When Thomas met Jessica, you were going through that rough patch after your father died. He didn't plan it. Didn't plan what, exactly? My voice was ice. Having 2 wives? 2 homes? Lying to me for how long? 5 years? 7? Carol looked away. 8. 8 years. 2/3 of our marriage. She's not legally his wife, Carol said, as if that helped. They had a ceremony, but no license. I laughed, an ugly sound. So I'm the real wife, she's the fake wife, and neither of us knew about each other? That's supposed to make me feel better. He loves you both. He couldn't choose. I stood so quickly my chair toppled backward. Get out. Rebecca, get out. I screamed, hurling my teacup against the wall. It shattered, tea running down the family photo where Thomas and I smiled on our last vacation. After Carol left, I made 2 calls. First, to my sister Emma, who promised to come immediately. Second, to my school principal, taking an emergency personal day. Then I did something I'd never done before. I opened Thomas's desk drawer and found his spare car key fob, the one with the strange key he claimed was for his office storage. I knew better now. I was done being the naive wife. The GPS guided me 2 hours south to a neighborhood in Colorado Springs with neat lawns and identical mailboxes. I found the blue-shuttered house from the photos easily, slowing as I approached. A woman was watering flowers in the front yard, petite, blonde, in jeans, and a flowing top that highlighted her pregnant belly. My hand fell to my own stomach. Still flat, but not for long. I parked across the street, watching. Jessica, if that was her, moved with the careful grace of someone well into pregnancy, at least 6 or 7 months. She looked happy, humming as she tended her garden. I almost drove away. Almost. But I'd spent 10 years building a life with Thomas, believing every business trip, every late night at work. I deserved answers. I stepped out of my car just as she looked up. Can I help you? She called, friendly and unsuspecting. I hope so, I said, approaching. I'm looking for Thomas Wilson. Her smile brightened. He's away until tomorrow, but I'm his wife, Jessica. Are you a colleague? Each word hit like a physical blow. No, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I'm Rebecca Wilson, Thomas's wife from Denver. The watering can crash to the ground. 8 years, Jessica echoed, sitting across from me at her kitchen table. Our kitchen table. The one Thomas had helped me pick out for our Denver home, then apparently bought an identical one for this house. That's what his mother said. I stared at the photos on Jessica's refrigerator. Thomas at the beach. Thomas grilling in the backyard. Thomas hugging Jessica, his hand on her pregnant belly. We met at a conference in Chicago, Jessica said, her voice distant. He told me he was divorced, that his ex-wife in Denver was bitter and wouldn't let go. She laughed hollowly. I believed him when he said he needed to keep our relationship quiet to protect me from you. And the trips back to Denver? I asked. Client meetings. Family obligations he couldn't avoid. She twisted her wedding ring, identical to mine, I noticed. When we bought this house, he said it needed to be in both our names for tax reasons, but we had to keep separate finances because of his crazy ex. She looked up, tears streaming. He's gone 3 or 4 days a week. Always has been. I thought that was normal for his job. The same job that kept him from Denver 3 or 4 days a week. The perfect arrangement. How did you find out? She asked. I told her about the accidental bank transfer, the manager's call, the emails. I'm 3 weeks pregnant, I added. Just found out. When I saw you, I gestured at her belly. 7 months, she said automatically. It's a boy. Her face crumpled. He was so happy when I told him. Said it was the greatest moment of his life. Another lie. Another betrayal. Does he have other women? Jessica asked suddenly. Other families? I'd wondered the same thing. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Jessica and I spent hours combing through Thomas's emails, financial records, and phone statements. We found no evidence of a third wife, but plenty of financial deception. He'd been siphoning money from both households. My teaching salary and Jessica's income as a graphic designer funneled into accounts neither of us could access. The house in Denver was mortgaged to the limit, with equity lines of credit I'd never approved. The Colorado Springs house was technically in Jessica's name, but the payments came from an account I didn't recognize. He's been playing us both, Jessica said, voice hollow. All these years. I studied her across the table. In another life, we might have been friends. She was creative and warm, with a wit that occasionally broke through her shock. We were different, yet Thomas had somehow chosen us both, kept us both, for nearly a decade. What do we do now? She asked, hand resting on her belly. I pulled out my phone. First, we document everything. Then we confront him together. He'll lie, Jessica said. He's good at that. Not when faced with both of us at once. I took photos of her mortgage statements, the joint accounts, the wedding photos on the mantle. Jessica forwarded emails, screenshots of text messages, bank transfers. He's calling, she said suddenly, showing me her phone. Thomas's face lit up her screen. What do I say? Answer it. Act normal. Don't let him know I'm here. She nodded, taking a deep breath before answering. Hi, honey. I watched as she navigated his questions, responding to his, I miss you, with a convincing, miss you too. She confirmed his arrival time tomorrow, agreed to his dinner plans, said she loved him. When she hung up, her hands were shaking. He has no idea, she whispered. No idea his life is about to implode. Good, I said, a cold resolution settling in my chest. That makes 2 of us. That night, I stayed at a hotel in Colorado Springs after calling my sister Emma. I told her everything, including my plan to confront Thomas the next day. Are you sure that's safe? Emma asked. Men who live double lives can be dangerous when cornered. Jessica and I will be together, I said. And we're meeting in public. I'm driving down, Emma decided. I'll be there by noon. I almost argued, but realized I wanted her there. Emma had never liked Thomas, claiming he was too slick. I should have listened. In the morning, Jessica texted, he just called. Flight landing at 2 p.m. Says he'll be home by 3. We arranged to meet at a coffee shop near Jessica's house at 3:30. I spent the morning gathering final evidence, screenshots of Thomas's location history showing his movements between Denver and Colorado Springs, photos of the identical wedding rings, the matching furniture in our houses. At 2:45, Emma and I pulled into the coffee shop parking lot. Jessica was already there, nervously checking her phone. "He texted that he's running late," she said when we approached. "Traffic from the airport." "He texted me too." I showed her my phone. "Meeting running long, be home by 8. Jessica's face hardened. More lies. We took a table by the window, ordered coffees, and waited. Emma sat at a nearby table, positioned to intervene if needed. At 3:40, Jessica tensed. "That's his car." A silver Audi pulled into the lot, identical to the one Thomas drove in Denver. He stepped out, checking his reflection in the window before heading toward the cafe entrance. "Ready?" I asked Jessica. She nodded, jaw set. The bell chimed as he entered. His eyes locked on Jessica, his smile warm and practiced. Then he scanned the cafe, a habitual move I'd seen him do 1,000 times, and his gaze landed on me. He froze. I'd imagined his reaction for 24 hours. Denial. Anger. Pleading. But I hadn't expected the pure, naked fear that washed over his face. "Thomas," Jessica said, her voice carrying. "Your wife is here to see you." "This isn't what it looks like," Thomas stammered, still standing while Jessica and I sat calmly at our table. The few other customers pretended not to watch, but I caught them stealing glances. "So I'm not your wife?" Jessica asked. "Of course you are, honey, and I'm not your wife?" I asked. He swallowed. "Becca, please, let me explain. Sit down," I said quietly. Somehow, that was more effective than yelling. He sat, looking between us with the desperate expression of a trapped animal. 8 years, I said. "You've been living a double life for 8 years. "It wasn't planned," he started. "When I met Jess, you and I were having problems." "Don't," Jessica cut him off. "Don't blame Rebecca for your choices." I felt a surge of gratitude toward this woman I barely knew. "How could you do this?" I asked. 10 years of marriage, and you've spent most of it lying to my face." "I loved you both," he said, voice breaking. "I couldn't choose." "So you chose deception," I said. "And theft," Jessica added, sliding printouts of the financial documents across the table. "You've been stealing from us both." Thomas blanched. "That's not stealing. I was managing our finances by remortgaging my house without my knowledge." I asked. "By opening credit cards in Jessica's name?" "Those accounts are for our future," he insisted. "For security." "Your security," Jessica said. "Not ours." Thomas's eyes darted between us, then to the exit. I recognized that look from negotiations with difficult parents. He was calculating his escape. "I'm pregnant," I said abruptly. His head snapped toward me. "What?" 3 weeks. "I found out yesterday, right before I discovered your other family." His face cycled through shock, joy, and terror in 3 seconds flat. "And I'm 7 months along," Jessica added. "Due in July. In case you've lost track of your children's schedules." Thomas put his head in his hands. "I can fix this." "How?" I demanded. "How exactly do you fix 8 years of lies? 2 pregnant wives? Financial fraud." He looked up, eyes wild. We could work something out. A new arrangement." Jessica laughed bitterly. "An arrangement? Where you officially have 2 families. Where our children grow up knowing their father couldn't be bothered to choose." "It works for some people," he said desperately. "It works when everyone consents," I corrected. "Not when it's built on lies." "I'll make it right," he pleaded. "I'll sell the properties, consolidate the accounts. We can start fresh." "There is no we anymore," Jessica said, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. "Not for me." Thomas turned to me, hopeful. "Becca, please. 10 years together. We can work through this." I felt a moment of weakness, remembering the good times, the dreams we'd shared. Then I looked at Jessica, this woman who'd been living my same lie for 8 years, carrying his child, believing she was his only wife, and my resolve hardened. I've already contacted a lawyer, I said. So has Jessica. The same lawyer, Jessica added. She specializes in unusual divorce cases. Thomas's face darkened. You can't do this to me. We're not doing anything to you, I said. You did this to yourself. He slammed his hand on the table, making our cups jump. After everything I've done for both of you? The homes, the vacations, the gifts. Paid for with our money, Jessica said. While you played happy husband in 2 cities, you won't get away with this, he hissed, mask of contrition slipping. I've planned for contingencies. I slid my phone across the table, screen showing a recording app running. So have we. Thomas stormed out, leaving Jessica and me in the aftermath of destruction. Emma came to our table, sitting in his vacated chair. That went about as expected, she said, squeezing my hand. Jessica wiped her eyes. What now? Now we protect ourselves, I said. I've documented everything. Tomorrow we meet with the lawyer I contacted, Lauren Chin. She's handled cases like this before. Cases like this? Jessica repeated. How many men have 2 secret families? More than you'd think, Emma said grimly. We exchanged contact information, agreeing to coordinate our next steps. As we stood to leave, Jessica hesitated. I still can't believe this is real, she said. Yesterday my biggest worry was nursery colors. I thought about the pregnancy tests hidden in my bathroom drawer, the future I'd imagined just 24 hours ago. Yesterday feels like a different lifetime. Jessica surprised me by hugging me tightly. I'm sorry he did this to you. I'm sorry he did this to us, I corrected, returning her embrace. Walking to my car with Emma, I felt a strange mix of devastation and liberation. My marriage was over. My future, uncertain. But the lies were finished. My phone buzzed with texts from Thomas. Becca, please, we can work this out. Don't throw away what we have. I'll be home tonight. I blocked his number without responding. You okay? Emma asked as we drove back toward Denver. No, I admitted. But I will be. The next 6 weeks passed in a blur of lawyer meetings, financial discoveries, and devastating revelations. Thomas hadn't just been maintaining 2 households, he'd been systematically draining both. The equity from our remortgaged Denver home had funded investments in his name only. Credit cards in Jessica's name had financed luxury purchases he'd hidden in a storage unit. He'd even taken out life insurance policies on both of us. Classic financial abuse, Lauren Chin explained during a joint meeting with Jessica. He kept you both dependent and in the dark. How did we not see it? Jessica asked, hand resting on her now 8 months pregnant belly. Predators choose trusting victims, Lauren said gently. You both believed in your marriage. That's not a character flaw. Thomas fought the divorce proceedings fiercely, alternating between threats and pleas. He sent flowers to my school. He showed up at Jessica's prenatal appointments. He called my family, claiming I was mentally unstable. When those tactics failed, he emptied our remaining joint accounts. Fortunately, we anticipated that, Lauren said, showing me documentation of the emergency financial orders she'd filed. He'll have to return those funds and explain his actions to the judge. I moved in with Emma temporarily. Too unsettled to stay in the house I'd shared with Thomas. Jessica remained in Colorado Springs, supported by her sister who moved in with her. We spoke almost daily, comparing notes on Thomas's latest manipulations, sharing evidence, and sometimes just offering comfort. In another universe, we could have been friends. In this one, we were bound by betrayal. He showed up at my doctor's appointment again, Jessica told me one evening. Tried to convince the nurse he should be allowed in. She called security. He sent me anniversary flowers, I replied. 10 dozen roses. The card said, forgive me. As if flowers fix bigamy, she said, and despite everything, we both laughed. We were healing, slowly, jointly, a bond formed in the ruins of our marriages. The confrontation came 7 weeks after Discovery Day, when Thomas escalated his tactics. I was grading papers in Emma's kitchen when Jessica called, panicked. "He's trying to get into the house," she said, voice trembling. "Says he has a right to prepare for his son's arrival." I heard pounding in the background, Thomas's voice shouting Jessica's name. "Call the police," I said immediately. "I'm calling Lauren." "Already did. They say it'll be 10 minutes. Is your sister there?" "No, she's at work." "I'm alone." "Lock yourself in the bathroom," I instructed, already grabbing my keys. "I'm coming. It's 2 hours away, I don't care. Stay on the phone with me." I heard more pounding, glass breaking, Jessica's frightened cry. "He's inside," she whispered. The back door, Emma appeared at my side, car keys in hand. "Let's go." We made the 2-hour drive in 90 minutes, Jessica on speakerphone the entire time. The police arrived shortly after Thomas broke in, but they merely separated them, calling it a domestic dispute despite Jessica's restraining order. They left after Thomas agreed to leave the property. He didn't. When Emma and I arrived, his car was still in the driveway. We called the police again as we approached the house. I found them in the nursery, Thomas arranging baby clothes in a dresser while Jessica stood in the doorway, arms crossed protectively over her belly. "You need to leave," I said, voice steady despite my racing heart. Thomas turned, unsurprised to see me. "This doesn't concern you, Rebecca. This is between me and my wife." "Ex-wife," Jessica corrected. "And it absolutely concerns her." "This is my child," Thomas said, holding up a tiny blue sleeper. "My son." "I have rights. Rights you'll exercise through the courts," I replied. "Not by breaking and entering." "It's my house." "It's in Jessica's name," I reminded him. "And you're violating a restraining order being here." His face darkened. "Always the teacher, aren't you? Always following rules." He stepped toward me. "Where has that gotten you, Rebecca?" "Alone." "Pregnant. Staying with your sister like some charity case." "I'd rather be alone than lied to," I said evenly. "You weren't complaining last month when I surprised you with that weekend in Aspen," he sneered. "Or was that just before you sent your lover a text about the cabin I paid for?" I blinked, confused, then realized. "You're mixing us up," Thomas faltered. "What?" "I've never been to Aspen with you. That was Jessica." "No, we went for your birthday in February. My birthday is in October," I said. "You took me to Santa Fe." He shook his head, confused. "That's not, you can't even keep your lies straight anymore," Jessica said, a hint of pity in her voice. 10 years of marriage, and you don't remember when my birthday is." "Of course I do," he insisted. "November 14th. "That's my mother's birthday," I said quietly. "Mine is October 22nd. The realization of how completely he'd entangled his deceptions seemed to hit Thomas all at once. He sank onto the ottoman in the corner of the nursery, the fight draining from him. "I just wanted everyone to be happy," he mumbled. "Happy?" Jessica echoed. "You thought living a lie would make us happy?" "I loved you both," he said, looking between us. "I still do." The pathetic thing was, I believed him. In his warped reality, he'd convinced himself his deception was some form of love. The police arrived then, responding to our second call. This time, with Emma as witness to the restraining order violation, they took Thomas away in handcuffs. As the patrol car pulled away, Jessica leaned against me, suddenly pale. "Are you okay?" I asked. She grimaced, hand on her belly. "Just Braxton Hicks. This little guy doesn't like stress." I helped her to the couch, where Emma brought her water. "Thank you for coming," Jessica said, gripping my hand. "I don't know what he might have done. We're in this together now," I said, and meant it. Thomas's arrest marked a turning point. With a violation on record, the courts moved more decisively. Our divorce proceedings accelerated. The financial investigations deepened. 3 days after the arrest, Lauren called with news. "We found another account," she said, "and another apartment. In Santa Fe." My stomach dropped. Another woman? We're looking into it. There wasn't another wife, thankfully. Just a long-term girlfriend Thomas visited during his supposed business trips to New Mexico. She was as shocked as we'd been, having believed Thomas was a widower who traveled frequently for work. 3 women, Jessica said when I called her with the news. 3 separate lives. That we know of, I added grimly. By Jessica's 9th month, we discovered the full extent of Thomas's financial manipulation. Nearly $500,000 moved to offshore accounts, properties in 2 states, and credit lines in all 3 women's names. The good news, Lauren told us, is that with the criminal financial charges, we have significant leverage in the divorce settlements. I don't want his money, Jessica said. I just want him gone. I understand, Lauren replied, but consider your children's futures. He owes them support. She was right, of course. Thomas had obligations to the children he'd fathered, Jessica's son and my unborn baby. Whatever our feelings about him, that responsibility remained. Jessica went into labor 2 weeks early, the stress of recent months taking its toll. I drove to Colorado Springs immediately, meeting her at the hospital where she'd already been admitted. You didn't have to come, she said when I entered her room, though her relieved expression said otherwise. Where else would I be? I sat beside her bed. Emma's parking the car. Jessica squeezed my hand through a contraction. I'm scared, she admitted when it passed. Not just of labor. Of everything after. You won't be alone, I promised. We'll figure it out together. 14 hours later, Jessica gave birth to a healthy baby boy, 7 pounds, 3 ounces, with his mother's blue eyes and a shock of dark hair like his father's. She named him Ethan James, pointedly excluding Thomas's name. I was there when she held him for the first time, tears streaming down her face. He's perfect, she whispered. Despite everything. I watched her cradle her son, my hand resting on my own slightly rounded belly, and felt a surge of fierce protectiveness. Thomas had lied, cheated, and manipulated, but he'd also given us 2 children who would know the truth, who would be raised with honesty and integrity by mothers who understood the value of both. Thomas wasn't permitted at the hospital, though he tried to visit. Security escorted him out twice. The second time, he left flowers with a card reading to my family. Jessica threw them in the trash without opening the card. We settled into a new normal over the following months. The divorces proceeded, with Thomas fighting every concession despite overwhelming evidence against him. I moved back to my Denver house after changing the locks and security system. Jessica stayed in Colorado Springs with baby Ethan and her sister. We spoke almost daily, comparing lawyer updates, sharing parenting books, supporting each other through the legal and emotional minefield Thomas had created. What had begun as a forced alliance evolved into genuine friendship, perhaps the only positive outcome of Thomas's deception. When my daughter was born 6 months later, a healthy 8-pound girl I named Lily Rebecca, Jessica drove to Denver with Ethan to meet her. Half-siblings, she said, watching Ethan sleep beside newborn Lily in my living room. At least they'll have each other. And us, I added. The truth from the beginning. The final divorce decrees came through on the same day, 14 months after that fateful bank transfer. Thomas had eventually accepted a settlement that granted primary custody to both of us, with supervised visitation rights he rarely exercised. The financial restitution would take years to untangle completely, but Lauren had secured comfortable child support arrangements for both children. Jessica and I celebrated with dinner at my house, our children playing nearby. I never thought I'd be grateful for a bank error, Jessica said, raising her glass. But if that manager hadn't called you, we'd still be living his lie, I finished. Do you ever wonder if you could have been happy not knowing? She asked. Sometimes I think about that alternate timeline where I'm still just his wife in Colorado Springs, blissfully ignorant. I considered this. Happiness built on lies isn't real happiness. It's just delayed pain. She nodded slowly. I wish we'd met differently. Under any other circumstances, we probably would have been friends immediately, I agreed. We are now, she pointed out. Silver lining? The only one, I said, smiling as I watched Lily sleeping in her bassinet. The truth had shattered our worlds, but from those fragments, we'd built something unexpected. A friendship forged in betrayal, strengthened by resilience, and dedicated to raising our children with the honesty their father had never offered us. Not the family either of us had imagined, but a real one nonetheless. Was I right to confront my husband with his other wife? Would you have tried to make it work or walked away like we did? It's easy to say what you do until you're staring at evidence of your spouse's double life.